House Bill 378 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for a third time by title and sponsor only, and placed upon its passage.
Motion's made and seconded. House Bill 378 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title and sponsor only, and placed upon its passage. Clerk, please report.
House Bill 378, an act relating to state symbols. Representative Gentry.
Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentleman from Jefferson 46 for explanation of the bill and motion thereon.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson 46 for explanation of the bill and a motion thereon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, each day we come onto this floor to attempt to fix problems. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. And sometimes we even create some. That's exactly what happened 25 years ago. And House Bill 378 today will fix the issue we created. Let me explain. In 1998, the General Assembly designated coal as the state's official mineral. Although coal has had a long historical impact on many Kentucky communities and should be forever recognized, it's unfortunately not a mineral, but really an organic sedimentary deposit or rock. On top of that, 2 years later, the General Assembly then designated Kentucky agate as the state's official rock. But agate, in its pure form, is really just microcrystalline quartz, which geologists, petrologists, and mineralogists may refer to as chalcedony, and technically more of a mineral. So for almost a quarter of a century, Kentucky has been recognized by geologists across the country as the only state to honor a rock as its state mineral and a mineral as its state rock. But rest assured, Mr. Speaker, today I bring House Bill 378 to the House floor so we can forever fix this problem. So you might ask, why does this even matter? To you, it may not. But as the General Assembly's only geologist, I believe the time is now to remove Kentucky of the butt of jokes among fellow geologists everywhere. Even today, on the website of the Kentucky Geological Survey, you will find the words, and I quote, "The Kentucky Geological Survey was not consulted prior to this designation." Mr. Speaker, I think the truth always matters. This bill was first filed a few years back by the lady from Fayette 88. And Mr. Speaker, you and I both hear the gentleman from Pulaski. I'll try to be brief, but if he'll have just a little bit of patience, he can exercise that bad vote he made 25 years ago.
Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Anyway, where I was at, Dr. Garrison, who's a geologist, past president of Kentucky Academy of Science, brought this to the lady from 88. And when she found out I was a geologist, she gave it to me as the lead sponsor, and she still serves as my co-primary. But before it moved, there seemed to be a couple of colleagues that may have worried that changing the designation of coal might cause some sort of legal issue, since coal has long been subjected to an unmined minerals tax. Please let me explain why that fear is completely unfounded. The unmined minerals tax is a property tax. It is assessed in Kentucky not on minerals, but per se, but on mineral resources or energy resources, which carry potential mineable value. And that value is added to the land on top of the surface as its assessed value. For you non-geologists, there is a difference between a mineral and a mineral resource or an energy resource. Other substances subject to the unmined mineral tax include certain deposits of sand, gravel, limestone, and even crude oil and gas reserves, none of which are minerals. Therefore, the unmined minerals tax doesn't tax minerals, but it does tax mineable resources with some potential mineable value that have not yet been mined. By the way, 2 other states, West Virginia and Utah, both big coal states, designate coal as well, but both do so as the state rock that it is. Kentucky agate, please bear with me just another minute. Kentucky agate is a little more complicated, actually. And I can certainly understand why it was named the state rock. If you are walking along the Borden Formation in eastern Kentucky, or some eastern Kentucky counties where it outcrops of Pennsylvanian age, you may pick up a beautiful specimen. When you hold it in your hand and you're holding this rock, it has agate in it. Agate is the material inside the country rock. It is precipitated out of hydrothermal fluids. An example of this might be lava. These fluids have very high silica content, so pure silica oxide comes out. I don't expect any non-geologist to understand what I just said. But just hear this. Agate is the substance that's created by the mineral precipitation of high silica-rich hydrothermal liquid that hardens in the cavity of that pre-existing rock that was formed before that. So, Mr. Speaker, by replacing the common name, Kentucky agate, with a more proper name of chalcedony agate, which is the microcrystalline substance, or quartz, which is the mineral, then we can still honor these 2 very wonderful substances that have such an impact on this state by simply switching their state rock and mineral designations. And House Bill 378 does exactly that. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd be glad to answer any questions on this bill. I really probably don't think there is. There's probably about 10 of them, but if there is no questions, I move for passage for House Bill 378.
Question before the body is passage of House Bill 378. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lincoln for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, you mentioned that these symbols were created back in 1998. Could you tell me, was it your party or my party that was in majority back then that created such a bad bill?
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Well, gentlemen, I'll answer it this way. Being a positive person, I hate to look into past mistakes we made, and I like to focus on fixing the mistakes and moving into the future.
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Permission to speak on the bill, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, sir.
The gentleman from Jefferson is a good man, a good friend, and this is a good bill, and I urge the body to support it.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wayne for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've listened to the encyclopedic knowledge of the gentleman from Jefferson about rocks and minerals, and I got to thinking back when I was in grade school, and I've taken offense to the bill that he sponsored, and I'm aggrieved. Because when I was a young man in grade school, I threw what I thought was a rock at one of my schoolmates, and I got a paddling for it. And before I got that paddling, the teacher said, "Ken, can you give me one reason why I shouldn't paddle you?" And if I had only known today, or then what I've learned today, I would have said, "I didn't throw a rock, madam, I threw a mineral."
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Edmondson for discussion of the matter.
Mr. Speaker, would the gentleman from Jefferson yield to a question?
He will yield.
As the gentleman from Wayne said, that was a very informative talk. And you acknowledged in that discussion that you were a geologist, gentlemen. Was that a summary of your college dissertation?
Gentleman from Jefferson.
A small summary.
Gentleman from Evanston.
We appreciate that, gentlemen.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Carter for discussion of the matter.
The gentleman from Jefferson yield to a question, please.
He will yield.
Thank you. Gentleman from Jefferson, a couple of months ago, I was helping my 9-year-old on some homework, and we were studying rocks. And seems to be somewhat debated in the geological community about coal. Is it a metamorphic rock or a sedimentary rock? So my question to you as the resident geologist of this body, is coal metamorphic or sedimentary?
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Gentlemen, there are 3 types of rocks. An igneous, a metamorphic, and a sedimentary. Coal is definitely a sedimentary deposit of pure organic nature.
Gentleman from Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Greenup for discussion of the matter.
Mr. Speaker, may I ask the gentleman a question?
He will yield to a question.
Gentleman from Jefferson 46. Does diastrophism increase the amount of coal and agate in Kentucky?
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Gentlemen, I have no idea, but I do know this. I know the difference between a rock and a mineral.
Gentleman from Greenup.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For definition of diastrophism, it is the movement of the Earth's crust. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentleman from Greenup. Question before the body is passage of House Bill 378. Is there any further discussion? Clerk will sound the chimes. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. Roll call is open for your vote. All members voted. Does any member wish to change or explain their vote? Chair recognizes the gentleman from Perry for explanation of vote not to exceed 2 minutes.
Explain my vote, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know if coal was a mineral, a rock, but I know this. It kept me warm, it keeps the lights on, and it gives plenty of people a good job to make a living at. So I'm thankful that coal is in them there mountains.
All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. There being 95 members voting aye, 1 single member voting nay, House Bill 378 is passed. Gentleman from Jefferson.
Mr. Speaker, for my late mom, I move for clencher.
Without objection, clencher is applied. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Bullitt,